Hi, everyone. My name is Diana Delaney, and I want to welcome everyone to Virtual 18. This is my first time presenting, so bear with me. I want to give a big thank to Tan and Carol for organizing this professional development in the comfort of your own home. What a great opportunity, and following Jana Echeverria is amazing. I was listening a little bit about her presentation, and she talked about interaction. Well, I'm excited to start my presentation on setting norms with your students, speaking norms. But before that, I will share my screen because I'm going to share the slides with you. And I am learning, I'm getting better at this. And I have two devices, and I can see that I'm on. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. I have taught over 25 years in the elementary grades. I've been a bilingual teacher, Spanish immersion teacher, and I've taught multi-age, and now I'm teaching ESOL in Forsyth County Schools in Georgia. Now, oh, I forgot. If you've logged in, please let us know where you're from. We love to connect with teachers from around the world, and wow, I'm so excited to see everyone. I want to start with saying that I am passionate about teaching EL students. And I'm always finding different ways to accelerate their learning. And I do believe that it is important to create speaking tasks, just like Jana Echeverria was talking about, where students practice their academic conversation. But how many times do you only hear the extroverted or the loudest student in the class? All kids have ideas that are important. But how do you set a culture in your classroom where every student has a voice? Well, I found an effective way, and that is setting speaking norms with your students. Now, I'm going to go through the process and share with you what has worked in my classroom. Now, I've tweaked information that I've learned from multiple resources, and I'm going to show you a page with all of them and links. But I will start. How did the journey start? Well, do you remember 2 years ago when the WIDA Consortium sent out information that they raised the bar for the language proficiency? And that year, not many, well, a lot of our ESOL students did test out, but their speaking scores were one of the lowest. And out of all the domains, they had high reading, high listening, but their speaking were low. And I'm a big proponent of creating tasks for students to practice their academic language. I love it. Now, I do it in my classroom all the time, but I didn't feel my students, I didn't feel like everybody was participating. So I researched, everybody knows about Jeff Zweyer's books, Academic Conversations, full of information. But it wasn't until I went to a summer institute last summer with CLASE. Now, this is a Center for Latino Achievement and Success in Education, and it's through the Department of Education at the University of Georgia. And Dr. Mellon presented for 3 days, and believe me, there's a lot of information that I learned from this institute, but I'm going to focus on setting norms. This is what she said, that it was important to set norms with your students and using their language. And I thought, you know, I haven't done that with them. And then another aha moment was when I came back to school and we had a leadership retreat. Well, at the meeting, my principal asked all of us to write on a sticky note what were the non-negotiables at our meeting. how should we conduct the meeting? And then those sticky notes, we sorted them, and those categories became our norms. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it with my students. And I started with the Georgia Standards of Excellence. It is important to look at your standards, the speaking and listening standards. Now, if you look, there's a common language across grade levels. At the time, I was teaching 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And they all talk about that students need to engage effectively in a range of collaborative discussions. And if you look, even in 6th grade, all the way to high school. Not only that, right here, there's an element that students need to follow agreed upon rules for discussion. And this is across grade levels. Now, this is amazing. I thought, you know what? This even supports the fact that I need to set norms with my students. And I also read the book, Culturally Responsive Teaching and the Brain, a great book. And Zaretta Hammond, she stated that even with more time, you know, all these tasks and talking moves, we need to still equip students with collaborative protocols that help instructional conversation lead to a deeper learning. And I completely agree. So, how do you set norms? And this is the fun part. I started the year with my students. I did it with all of my students. And I asked them as they came in. I mean, I do a lot of pull-out. And so when my students came in, we talked about what does engaged in a conversation look like? Give me examples of times that we've had good conversation, or you've had a good conversation with a family member or outside, or even at dinner time. And I posed this question: how do they know, or how do you know if someone is engaged in a discussion with them? And I had my students, I gave them 5 minutes, quick little sketch. I asked them, just draw a little sketch of what you think is important and write. Now remember, I have 2nd through 5th. And I have charts, and I love their sticky notes. If you look right here, one said, one rule is that you should stop and let the other person talk. And then another one said, I am thinking that I need to listen to other friends. And what I love about their responses, they're so perceptive of what really it means when you're engaged in a conversation. They know how it feels. They know what it looks like. This is another one. I think that it is important to make eye contact because then you know that they are listening. But if they ask questions about the topic, then they are listening. It's so cute. Now, this one, I think it's important to listen in a conversation and ask questions. Now, once you have the sticky notes, this is the second step. Everybody has drawn or sketched what is important for them. And this is an important step. I then sort the sticky notes into categories with my students. And it started with 1. For example, I'll ask one, come up and read yours. And then I would ask someone else, the other students, does anybody have a similar example or similar statement? And then everybody would come up to the board, to the chart, and glue it on. And together, we would create a category. For example, discussion on same topic. Now, this is in the beginning. If you look at the next slide, here are some pictures. A lot of my students drew pictures of and said that it was important to have eye contact. And so that became one of the norms. After I grouped it all together into, well, I didn't do it, we did it as a group. I created a chart, and I think this is really important, that I placed on the table in a plastic sleeve. You can buy these plastic sleeves at the, on Amazon Prime or The Office. And I placed it on the table. And before students start any conversation, academic conversation, activity, or task, they read the norms to each other. For example, in the beginning of the year, these were our norms. Each person keeps eye contact while the person is talking. One person talks at a time, and the other thinks about ways to respond. And respect the person that is talking and speak clearly in complete sentences. Students need to practice this process. I mean, once the norms are set, then it becomes a routine. They know that if I'm going to have them sort or do an activity in a group, that they are going to read out the norms and follow the norms. This is a chart where I did this process again later on in the year, and we changed the norms a little bit, not much, based on what they said, their comments on their sticky notes. And if you see right here, I added the chart from Jeff Swire's book about the different sentence frames. But it is important to remember to read the norms before they start a speaking task or a speaking activity. Now, this is also important. And I thought that I saw a lot of growth in my students when they set their own speaking goals. Now, here's an example. I bought these cards from Classy, and it's at their website. But this is an important step, which is that students, you know, you have the student that always interrupt. That's their challenge. Well, their goal could be to allow others to complete their thoughts. I also had others that didn't contribute. They didn't talk much. So maybe their goal was to make comments. And I played around different ways where the students would document their goal. I've had sticky notes. That worked really well. Or writing it in their journal for that day with a date. But here's an example on my board. Please forgive me that it is messy, but basically students come in, and before we do an academic interaction task, they have to set a goal and they write their name. And what I found is that when it was on the board, it reminded everyone. It reminded everyone what their goal was. So, for example, one of my students loves to interrupt or did not listen to the other person, what the other person is saying. And I knew that, we all knew that, because they would repeat the same thing or just be off topic. So his goal was to listen to others and build off their comments. So we were listening to him and see if he would acknowledge the other person, like saying, you know, I hear what you're saying, but I think, or I agree with you. You said a great point, and this is why. Another one, I had a student, I loved him. He was my encourager. I had level 1 and 2 students, and it's hard. I always had vocabulary words, sentence frames to help my students express themselves. But I had my one that would always be the encourager. He would always say, Andy, what do you think about this? You know, and he would paraphrase or re-explain the whole question again. It was so cute. Loved it. So this is an important component. Setting norms with the students, but also having your students setting their goals before they do a task. And have time at the end to reflect. How did it go? And I did see a lot of students improve. And even some teachers came up to me and they were expressing, so-and-so is talking a lot more. And even one of my students at the end of the year, when he was writing his self-reflection, talked about how he wants to continue working on his speaking goals and talking. And oh my goodness, it was so much fun. Now, on this slide, and this will be available for you later because I want to kind of multitask and see if there are any questions at the end. But these are some examples of what my students did and how they used academic vocabulary. Students here, this is a video I recorded where they are having a discussion about the text structure. These are about verbs. In math, it is great, solving word problems. They had to agree on how to solve the word problem. They had to support their strategy, and it was all done orally, no pictures, all mental math. Another thing that I really like to do is before I start a unit, I hand them pictures. For example, this one is about the American Revolution. And students in a group discuss, sort the pictures, and then create a title for the different categories. And there's a lot of discussion. You can hear them talking and using vocabulary, and gives you an idea of what they know about the topic and what words they need to work on. But before we did any of this, we went over the norms. This is another example. I tweeted this one. At the end of the year, we were having fun about different topics. We always love to debate. And we were debating if teachers could, or robots could replace teachers. And they created a poster. Now, this was done independently, in a group, in a collaborative group, and everybody had a voice. And all I did was walk around, listen to their discussions, made notes on my chart, and always taking into account their goals, their speaking goals. And towards the end of the year, it was such a routine with my fourth graders, because they've been going through this process with me, that all I had to do sometimes is just put the chart on the table, and the students would just go ahead and follow the process. So this is important. If you want to increase student engagement, it has to go hand in hand. I thought, and I believe, that the best thing I did this year was setting norms with my students. But that needs to go hand in hand with creating tasks where students practice academic language with sentence frames. And that's a whole other component and a whole other area that there is so much information. Now, here I'm recapping. It's an easy process, and it's fun to see what your students come up with, and have them, first ask, how do you know that you're engaged in a conversation? How do you know? How do you know they're listening? Have them sketch or write. Then you sort them with the students and use their language, not setting your goals, their norms, And then third, this is very important, have your students set speaking goals and reflect. Now, it took a while in the beginning, but trust me, once the students are in a routine, it is easy. easy. Now here are some resources. These are my go-to books, some of them. I have a lot more, but one of them that I think is amazing is Talk, Read, Talk, Write. We read this at our book club, and I'll tell you a little bit about it later, but all these books are full of great tasks, great ideas on how to create engaging tasks for your students. And I recommend that you have these books in your library and use them. It is great. And this is, again, the Institute. If you're interested, you can contact Dr. Mellon. And I know they have 2 other institutes going on this summer, but it is worth the money. And it is a great time to collaborate with other teachers. And there's just so much that you will learn in this class. Now, at the end, I want to thank you for joining me. I'm looking at the time. I have a few minutes, and I know that I probably rushed through a lot. But if you have any questions, please send me a message. Yes, someone, Veronica. Now I'm reading some of the chat on YouTube. And yes, Talk, Read, Talk, Write is another game changer. I've been following that protocol in my classroom, and it's helped so much. Now, I also want to give a shout out to Tan. Well, everybody knows Tan, and here are his Twitter handle, and Carol Salva and Katie Topple also. She's the one who started the ELL Chat Book Club. That's another way to connect with other ESOL teachers that are passionate about teaching ESOL students. So if you have any other questions, yes. I see, I was worried that I was going to go over, but if you have a chance to listen to the videos, it would be great. It is hard, this is funny, it is hard to tape them sometimes because when I'm walking around, I use Seesaw to record my students, and I will just place the phone on the table and just walk away because I want authentic language. I want that to be recorded. But sometimes they know that I'm doing it and then they just quiet down. So please, I hope that you follow the protocol, the process of setting norms with your students, and have fun in listening to their rich language. Even the level 1 and 2s, they can catch on. The cards, someone asked me about the cards, and I am going back. This is the CLASE. It's a Center for Latino Achievement and Success in Education. And here there is I'm going to try. Yes, it goes straight to their website. And if you contact them, they will, and let them know that you are interested in the cards, they will send it to you. But you have to contact Dr. Mellon, and it's a whole institute. Once you go through it, you become part of a community of educators that are big in having academic conversations, and there's more to this. There's just so much. Now, yes, standards. Veronica, you were talking about standards. My school, I've been lucky. We've been working on personalized learning, and we always start with standards. And yes, it is higher level words, but I think our students are able, sorry, I am going all the way back. But I think if you start with the standards, they know that this is important. In fact, it is on the report card. And one of the parents didn't understand in the classroom why their student was not achieving a 4 in conversation, in speaking and listening. So we had to talk about how well we're listening, to how she's engaged in conversation. Does she participate? Does she respond to other students? Does she build on what other students are talking about? And that was her goal this year, was to talk more in a group. Here, they all talk, all the standards, they talk about how you have to engage effectively in conversation. So, yes. And this also sets the stage to have a classroom where everybody has a voice. This is what I feel. Now, I'm going to go back to here. Oh, gosh. I guess not. Sorry, this is my first time. I wanted to get back to the screen to say hello, but I guess I can't get back. I don't know how, but yes, this sets the stage for your students to kind of keep each other accountable, because they want everybody to follow the norms. They'll remind each other, hey, you haven't commented, or hey, you're interrupting, you need to listen, especially when new students are coming. And then you can really dig deeper in academic conversation and engage all your students. So anyway, I think we have about 3 more minutes, and I know there's so many great presentations, and I wish everybody a great summer. I hope you learn a lot, and I'm going to go and listen to everybody, and I can't wait to implement everything I learned today in the fall. This is the best professional development group. Keep learning with everybody, with Tan, Carol, Valentina, Katie. Oh, so many. I've made so many Twitter friends. It's so funny. We're like a club. But I hope you learned something, and good luck in setting norms with your students. Oh, God. It's showing everything. Oh, God. Wait, it's on. Oh, no. Jeez. Stop. Oh, gosh. I haven't ended. I have to turn it off. I can't turn it off. Where's my